Welcome to the RJI Futures Lab, where we help you make your organization more innovative. I'm Ruben Stern. This week, why investors are bullish on new media startups and an effort to tailor local news for younger readers. Venture capitalists have poured hundreds of millions of dollars into digital media startups like Vice, BuzzFeed, Vox Media, and others. Futures Lab reporter Tatiana Daria explains why investors are willing to bet on these new companies instead of established news providers.
Technology crossover ventures invested $250 million in Vice Media. Here's why.
If you look at the changing consumption patterns of media, what we think about now is things moving from kind of the more traditional channels to online video, and then online video and online text has gone to mobile. Vice is a massive leader in that space. I think the other thing is when you look at the demographic shifts, one of the largest demographics that's certainly coming into prominence is the millennials. And right now the millennials are trying to find, the appropriate voice for them. And, Vice is that voice. And I think one of the things that millennials love about Vice is its authenticity. So in the same way that you can have an aversion to whether it's left-leaning publications or right-leaning publications, Vice is about telling the story.
You may or may not like those stories or the way they're told, but they're different from what you'd find on traditional media, and that's why young people love them, says Rick Edmonds of the Poynter Institute.
The fact that these videos have an element of adventure, they seem fresh, they're a little bit different content than what you're seeing everywhere else. I can certainly see the appeal to a younger audience. BuzzFeed somewhat similar, though. I think there's kind of more of a mix of elements there, and as so-called clickbait listicles that draw people in. But over the last several years, BuzzFeed has been building a pretty strong news presence as well.
For investors, large audiences equals more advertising dollars and healthy returns. Bloomberg's Paul Sweeney explains.
Investors are looking for places where user growth is very strong because the business model then is an advertising business model. So presumably if users growth is growing at a particular site like Vice or BuzzFeed, then they can attract advertising, and that can be a very viable business model. The investments that are being made in some of these online news organizations are, venture in type, which is one that is by definition, a very high risk and hopefully a high reward. On the other side of the equation is something like the New York Times, which is less risky because it's been around for 100 plus years. It's been a public company for decades, and so it's probably from that perspective a lower risk investment, but as a result, it's probably also a lower return potential.
As digital advertising is making significant gains, new ventures like Vice, BuzzFeed, and Vox might be on a path to profitability, says Sweeney.
Advertising spending globally is about a 4 to 5% growth business, but internet advertising across all of the internet, such as Google and Facebook and Yahoo and so on, that's growing about 15% a year. So we're seeing a big share shift from some traditional media, most notably newspapers, but also other print media, radio, maybe even television beginning now. We've seen a shift of those advertising dollars to the internet. And that's what's fueling some of these new business ventures, such as Vice or BuzzFeed.
Right now, it's perhaps difficult to predict how these organizations will grow, but given their commitment to engaging young audiences, it's not hard to notice how they're changing the modern media landscape. For the Futures Lab, this is Tatiana Daria.
Along with this video, you'll find more information about investments being made in emerging digital news outlets. A startup news operation in Philadelphia called Billy Penn is attempting to tailor local news for younger readers, specifically those under age 35. We spoke with the site's editor to find out what the team is doing differently from other local news outlets.
Billy Penn is what we like to call a networked news site, which means we do a little bit of our own coverage, but we link to a lot of coverage everywhere. So we're just sort of trying to see how we can do generating not very much content of our own, really. I'm talking about 1, 2, maybe 3 posts a day on a busy day, but really focusing on distributing those stories by social, Facebook and Twitter primarily, and seeing what we can do with a sort of small staff by trying to also curate the best of Philly in one place. I would say a lot of Billy Penn has its DNA from TBD, which was the local news site in Washington, D.C. that was short-lived but beloved. That was my boss, Jim Brady's kind of first venture into this idea of linking out. We launched first with a Twitter account, we launched a newsletter after that, and then we launched a site. So in terms of the actual URL we were promoting, that came third. What we're trying to do is build an audience for our work. And then once we have a significant audience, we feel like we can start to point them towards more deep original content. More than 75% of our traffic is local, Pennsylvania and South Jersey, and more than 50% of our traffic is under age 35. So that's exactly what we're going for. When we covered the Pennsylvania gubernatorial race, we translated every candidate's answers into emoji. We also did a series of analyses of where candidates stand on issues that millennials will care about. So we shied away from Medicare, we shied away from Social Security, but we wrote about marijuana legalization, liquor privatization, healthcare, women's issues, student loans, things that we know people in this demographic care about. And one of the stories that's done best for us over the course of our 7-week existence as a website was what the new governor feels about all those issues. We write in very plain language. People who look at the site tell us anecdotally that they love the voice. They love the way that we point stuff out. So I like that the reporters that I have, reporter curators and a community manager, are all in the demographic we're trying to reach. And it's more a matter of tooling what they have to say. You know, occasionally we'll curse on the website and on the newsletter. And occasionally we will use incredible slang, or we will try to strip away the remove that tends to be in news stories where it's very dull and dry language. I think it's no accident why news organizations are disengaged from a younger audience, because they don't speak to that audience in a language they understand.
Billy Penn's website design mirrors social and mobile news sites like Quartz and Circa, making it easier to update both the homepage and Twitter simultaneously. You'll find links to more information along with this video. And that's it for this report from the RJI Futures Lab. I'm Ruben Stern. We'll see you in the future.